Ladies and gentlemen, I think we'll get started. Welcome to the El Cajon City Council meeting. The meeting is called to order, and I would like to ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Calacio is absent. All other council are present.
Great. I would like to invite Miss Teen El Cajon and Miss El Cajon to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So would you all then stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing after the pledge for a brief moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Oh, ladies, come back for a second. Everybody would be upset with me if I didn't get you to come up and tell us who you are and say hello.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Crawley. I'm 17 years old, and I'm your Miss Teen El Cajon. I'm currently a senior at Valhalla High School, and I'm really excited to be here today.
All right. That's awesome. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexandria DeMars. I'm your Miss El Cajon for 2018. I am 21 years old and currently in my third year of college at Grossmont College and San Diego State University, and was actually recently admitted to the university full-time. Go Aztecs.
Yahoo.
And I'm also on the cheer team at the university, and I'm very excited to be here.
Can you just briefly tell us what the life is, the year that you're serving? What's it like? I know it can be pretty busy.
It's a lot of fun. Katie and I have been given the amazing opportunity to go out in our community and make a difference in the smallest ways that we can. And we actually both got to compete in Miss California for the Council for Youth Empowerment. Katie placed in top 5 as well as I did, and I actually won Miss California as well.
Wow.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
No, it's just been absolutely amazing being able to go out in our community and make a difference in other people's lives.
Katie, you want to say anything?
I think the best part of my year so far is just spending it with Alex, because we've definitely been together for a long time, and getting to serve in our community with each other has just been a huge blessing, especially in the beautiful city of El Cajon. I think it's super fun, and I really recommend a lot of younger children to try this because I've definitely learned a lot from it.
Well, thank you for coming, and thank you for serving. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Like she makes a good role model for you.
Yes. Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, ladies. All right, the city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the March 12th, 2019 meeting and the agenda of the March 26th, 2019 meeting in accordance with state law, council, and housing authority policy. We have one presentation on today's agenda, and Frank Carson, the Director of Recreation, will tell us all about it. Hi, Frank.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. I'm here to introduce April Pools Day, which will be happening next month at the Fletcher Hills Pool on Friday, April 26, 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. This is not only a regional effort, but a nationwide effort to start to push towards water safety and water awareness. So there's five cities locally do participate in this. It actually started with Heartland Fire District, and the Safe Kids Worldwide program has pushed this internationally. More locally, the San Diego County Aquatic Council is fostering this effort, and so they've helped pay for what you see here are our water watcher tags. So the big push in making people water aware are that for ages 1 to 5, drowning is the leading cause of death in San Diego County as well as the state of California. And for youth under the age of 14, drowning is still the leading cause of death. That is preventable death. So we're here to make people water aware. And if you have a child or youth at or near the water, to always have a water watcher around. This is why we provided the water watcher tags to the guests here in the city council meeting, as well as the council members and our city dignitaries. Children and youth can drown in a pool, a spa. I put on there a tub, even a bucket with an inch full of water an infant or a child can drown in. So don't think that you're safe just to leave the room to go answer the phone. You need to take the child with you if you're going to go and leave the room. just because you don't want to leave a child unattended in or around water environments. So on Friday, April 26th, we'll have our Fletcher Pool event, our April Pools Day. We'll have a CPR station. Again, we got a grant for a life jacket giveaway. We have basic water rescue station and as well as water safety education stations throughout the time period of the event. So we are looking for about 200 to 300 people to attend, but more this is making our community water aware, one of our several attempts we're trying. We did reach out to IPSA. IPSA is the Independent Pool and Spa Service Association. Their local chapter here in San Diego is Region 7, and they do coordinate trainings throughout apartment complexes in this city, but all cities in the San Diego County region on an annual basis for a water watcher, and they also provide training to property managers that have those health permitted pools in their area. Lastly, the event again is Friday, April 26th, 3:30 to 5:30 at the Fletcher Hills Pool.
Let me see if there's any questions. Council?
Good program.
You may not have the information, but has there been any studies on preventable drowning deaths that show that all this education is helping at all, or is it making a dent?
They don't have any current studies on that. On average in San Diego County, we have about 17 youth that die from drowning.
Does that seem to be consistent every year?
That is consistent anywhere from 16 to 20. It's worse in Imperial County because they have those canalways with the water, and they have usually about 40 to 50 deaths in Imperial County every year because of that. Yeah.
Thanks for doing this important stuff.
Thank you.
All right. Agenda changes. Staff, do you have any agenda changes?
Mayor, no changes to the agenda.
Council? No. We are now at consent items. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request a discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, do you wish to pull any consent items? How about staff?
No, sir.
Angela, do we have any speaker cards for consent items?
We have no cards, sir.
All right, I'd like to make a motion then to approve the consent items.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
This brings us to public comment. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time that the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, Council, Authority, and agency members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. Angela, do we have any speaker cards under public comment?
Yes, sir. We have 3 cards. The first one is Kelly Studebaker.
But we didn't hear from you. Did you? This is your chance. All right.
You have a time clock. That's very good. So my name is Kelly Studebaker, and I'm the director for the Miss El Cajon pageants, where we crown Miss and Teen El Cajon, Rancho San Diego, and Jamul. So our entire organization is about building leadership, confidence, and poise, and giving the girls opportunities to learn how to speak in front of groups of people. And during the interview process for the pageant itself, they speak to a group of 6 to 8 adults who ask them questions about themselves, about their resume, so to speak, and what they want to do with themselves as far as education and their goals for life. So it's a very good thing. It gives the girls a great chance to bone up before they're in front of a panel for college. And they enjoy being out in the community, and we enjoy all of you giving them opportunities to work with the City of El Cajon.
Bob?
I just wonder if you're any relation to the Studebaker family.
Yes, it's my husband's family.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
That
But you don't know us because there was no bailout when they struggled in the
Oh, no.
60s.
I remember because I was in the automobile business too, and I remember the Studebaker very well. And
Right. Well, if you go down to the Balboa Park, you can see a Studebaker Conestoga wagon. So Studebakers were in automobiles and wagons, and actually wheelbarrows for the gold rush. So anything with wheels, Studebaker.
Yeah.
So yes.
Well, tell him hello, and it's too bad that it didn't survive.
Right.
Yeah.
If other young girls wanted to get involved, what would they do?
They can go to our website, misselcajonpageants.com, and we're having an orientation on the 13th of April at Parkway Plaza. They have a new live events community space that they're allowing us to use for that particular meeting. And we're going to be holding our 56th annual pageant here at the Marriott on the 15th of June. So if you know young ladies from 13 to 27 that would like to compete, and this year we're also doing a princess program for young girls 6 to 12 just to stick their toes in it and have a couple of fun events and learn how to be out and about with the community. So it's a very good thing to do, and I enjoy helping the girls do it.
How many girls competed?
Last year we had about 12. But in days of yore, Miss El Cajon was very, very popular, and there would be like 30 to 50 contestants. So it kind of goes up and down.
Yeah.
But we still see the advantage of holding something like this. It's one day of kind of, a show, and the rest of the year is hard work.
Right,
So.
exactly.
All right. Well,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
coming.
Appreciate it.
And thanks for all the good work you're doing in the community.
Thank you.
Ruth Thornton.
Hi, Ruth. Welcome.
Hi. I wanted to clarify something that I had said to you at the last meeting. We had talked about ways to help the homeless, and one of my suggestions had to do with people who have not yet become homeless. We don't seem to have good programs to help those people and keep them off the streets. So that's something that I think is important. Help the ones who want the help the ones before they become homeless. I don't know how to do that, but that's what I think. My second thing is another house on Magnolia burned last night. And from what I hear, and this is not documented, I hear that they were selling drugs out of there and that it had been reported to the police. In fact, reported to the police yesterday before it burned, and that cars were coming and going all the time, and it was like a little drug den going there. I don't know that's a fact, but that's what the rumor going around is. There was another house up by Renette, between Renette and Magnolia, Renette and Chase, that burned a while back, and they boarded it all up. And suddenly a camper appeared in the front yard, and people were pulling the boards off and going in to that building and living in there. So to me, if it was boarded up, there was a reason why it was boarded up, and
Absolutely.
why are people living in there. So those are concerns, and those houses are close together. If one of them really took hold, like last night, the police and fire were really busy. If they hadn't gotten to the house fire in addition to the car accident, it could have taken out more than one house. So anyway, Monday I drove down Main Street and I saw more homeless than I'm used to seeing on the street, and maybe because of the weather, but just as advisement. I was at El Cajon Transitional Living Center on Monday, and my women's club, Bostonia Women's Club, we support them and give money to them. They're asking for twin blankets. Don't have to be new. If anybody has twin blankets, they need them there now. Also, they're asking for children's books and children's games for the 180 kids that are living there. And then I have a question that on the agenda it talks about blocking off the street for the Chaldean New Year, but I don't know when the Chaldean New Year is. So anyway, thank you for your time.
I think we'll find out. So thanks for all your suggestions. We do appreciate it.
We have two more speakers. The next one is Jim Sirigliano.
Hello, sir. Welcome.
Council, Mayor, staff. I've missed a few meetings here recently, but in my absence, I follow, whether it's on the internet or the following evening. There's something I want to speak about that at the town hall meeting, okay, I was completely ignored about speaking by the lady that was carrying the microphone. She completely ignored me. I'm not making this up. I was within a few feet of her at least 4 times, many times raising my hand and completely ignored. There's people that took notice of this also. Okay, and I just want to say that because I went to that meeting with good intentions of speaking about the homeless mainly, which I never got the opportunity to.
This was the meeting
The town hall meeting.
at the high school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And, at first I thought it was just, maybe a stifling of dissension or something. But I said, no, I had good intent being there. I felt it was more of an insult to my dignity as a citizen of El Cajon. I'm not making this up. This actually happened. There were some good points at that meeting. Tony Shute made a great presentation, answered some clarified questions, and of course, City Manager Graham Mitchell also. And like I said, it did turn out kind of nice for me because the last speaker was the pastor from the Hope Center, because he mentioned the word humanity, and I was happy to hear that. And I did approach him at the end of the meeting because I had jotted something down that I dealt with this here, and I'll read it to you real quickly. Ultimately, it is not our humanity, not the absence of it, that is the true source of economic growth and of a flourishing city, state, government, or whatever. And I think that's very important to remember that. A lot of times when I come to these meetings when we're speaking of homeless people, I have a whole different perspective. I used to have a small business. I fed thousands of homeless people. And I understood them. Some of these same people actually broke into my establishment at times. But I understood that they had a problem. And fortunately, I was able to work with a local church, a Presbyterian church right down the block. And we worked together. So I know time is limited here, but if anyone has any questions for me, because I never did get a chance to really speak that night.
Oh.
And I'm not making this up. This was an actual thing, okay?
What would you have said that night?
Well, one of the things right at that particular day was at that very same day, the city of San Diego was holding a, how do you want to say it, a meeting where they did everything, kind of like the stand down that the San Diego City does for the veterans. They were doing that very same day, okay? And of course, I wanted to speak about my experience with the homeless, and my point of view, which I don't hear very much of about the homeless people and the approach to it. All I hear is a negative, and I understand why people are upset citizens, but it goes much deeper than that. There was an example that I even took notice of at the last council meeting about, you asked Ruth Thornton about what do you do when someone says to you, I don't want any help, I don't want to do this here. In my experience, most of them would say to me, I get ripped off when I go to these shelters. But at the same time, in conjunction with my local religious establishment there, I would tell them, well, if you change your mind, come back. And a lot of times I had them coming back to me. And I think it's important that you just don't make contact and accept a no, because sometimes these people, they may be on the drugs. Who knows? There's a lot of reasons for people being homeless, as you all well know. But sometimes, like Ruth Thornton, we were just talking it on the way over here. You have to make contact 2 or 3 times. And even in today's paper, there was an article about the lack of data between cities about homeless situation. And this stood out to me because the city of El Cajon stopped funding multi-service programs in 2012.
Sorry, what?
It's in today's local paper, multi-service. They stopped funding it in 2012. And this is more or less what my approach is. I have a lot of great ideas. I could speak further about my experience and things. But I just think that the homeless, the majority of them, are misrepresented in many ways. It's not, you, Mayor, you say you work with the mental end of things. And I feel you should understand this here, that most of these people, I think that with a lot of homeless people, what's keeping them alive is actually sometimes the drugs that they take and everything else. I've worked with a lot of veterans, mainly, at that time, because I was close to Balboa Park, loaded with homeless people. And I don't know if anyone has any questions for me right now, but I feel good that I finally got a chance to express a little bit for now. And I will be following up on it. And also, just real quickly, Mr. Mitchell, I'll hope to get in contact with you again about the whole rent mediation process that we went through. And I'll hope to, fill you in a little bit more. But I thank you for your time. And like I said, if anyone has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions, gentlemen? I think you articulated it very well. Thank you.
Well, I hope so. Thank you.
Stephanie Harper.
Ms. Harper, welcome.
Hey, long time no see. Okay, so I may have been out of the loop for a little bit, but I wanted to know when they put on when it was on agenda to change the name of the East County Performing Arts Center to the Magnolia Performing Arts Center.
I don't think we've done that yet, have we?
Mr. Mayor, it was not put on the agenda.
It's not been on the agenda.
Why is this? Why wasn't it put on the agenda? I mean, we don't have a say-so in what we would like to call our building, or if we wanted it changed.
Graham, has it been officially changed?
It's officially changed right now. I mean, if the council would like to have an agenda item to talk about it, we can do that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I'm sorry.
I was just wondering because, it would seem that that's something that the community fought for and that we've been, going at it. You guys know how many times I've been up here blabbing about it, that we need to get it going again, and just to up and change the name of it, just kind of like, without even saying anything to anybody. Also, what was it? Sorry, I missed the first part of it, but also I wanted to ask the police station that we're doing the Hampton and stuff like that, have anybody drove by there? Because I see them putting up the other buildings. There is no way they're going to fit a 96-room hotel there. And if they are able to do that, where are we going to put all the parking? Are we going to take over the Home Depot parking lot, or what's going on with that?
It's all going to work out. Brett, do you want to talk about that? Or?
If Ms. Harper would like to look at the plans show exactly how the project's laid out and the height of it and where the parking is located. Interestingly enough, you're not the only person who's mentioned that. I think it's the point of view of the angle from which you're looking at it. I think once you see it, it's all done, it will all make sense.
Okay. And lastly, also I've been asking for a few years now about putting on agenda, switching the times from the 7 to making the 7 o'clock city council meetings or the housing meetings here at 3, and then putting the ones this one at 7, so more people would be able to attend. So I'm just wondering why my request hasn't been even answered or anything like that. Is there a problem with changing that or putting it on agenda?
I'm not sure what you're asking for. We have meetings at 3 and 7.
Right. So if we could switch the 7 o'clock one to 3 and the 3 o'clock one to 7, so more people in our community, because at 3 o'clock people are getting off work, fighting traffic, picking up their kids, doing their things, and at 7 people are more apt to have already dinner done, settled in, and be able to come to a meeting, and there would be more community input, and there'd be a lot more community citizens out here to the meetings.
Well, but you realize we do have a meeting at 7.
Right. I'm just saying switch the two.
You want to talk about the agenda items that we normally talk about in the day in the evening?
I would just like it put on agenda to maybe switch those two meetings, put the city council meeting at 7 and the other meeting at 3.
They're both city council meetings.
Okay.
I've never even thought about that.
It would just make it to where more people would be able to be involved in their community instead of,
Is there something specifically that you'd want them to be able to be involved with that we?
I would like them to be able to be. I would love it if all the community would get involved and read the full agenda, see the details of different things, like, say, for instance, when money is being asked for, and question it, because that's what we're supposed to do. It's supposed to be transparency government, to where we can ask questions, get our questions answered in a common sense kind of way.
Well, they're certainly able to come at 7 and ask questions.
I would just like it if somebody could put it on agenda. I know one of you gentlemen can opt to put it on agenda to maybe just get a vote on it.
I'll talk to our city manager about how this is normally done, and we'll.
Okay.
I don't want to do anything that would disenfranchise anybody. So
okay. I just think we need to keep our community involved a little bit more than we have been.
Bob?
Thank you.
What I found is that the years that I've been on the council, people that want to find out about the meeting, they can watch it on live the last few years on their computer or their cell phone. And if they want to come into the next meeting, if they miss something and want to speak about it, they can, like sometimes you do.
What I'm saying is that most people work 9 to 5. Their kids get out at 3, so they're not able to make it here at 3.
They could come to the 7 o'clock meeting when we have a 7 o'clock
and they'll
meeting.
be able to talk about the things that are on agenda at the 3 o'clock meeting?
Public comment, just like the 3 o'clock.
Okay.
But we see that not many people come to the 7 o'clock meeting other than those that maybe have something on the agenda or they want to complain about something on the agenda, and that's about it.
I would think just maybe trying to switch them would see, kind of get an idea of maybe more people could come at 7.
Well, I agree with you that it's nice to give people an opportunity to do both, so we'll look into that.
Thank you very much.
No more cards, sir.
All right. All right, that brings us to public hearings. Item number 9 is the municipal code exemption. And I'd like to ask staff to tell us about this.
Yes, Mayor and Council. You'll recall at the February 26th City Council meeting, staff presented an opportunity to the Council that city projects can be made exempt from the zoning code regulations and its processes. The City Council then directed the Planning Commission to hold a public hearing at its March 19th meeting to process an amendment to the zoning code. And at that meeting, the Planning Commission recommended that the Council not adopt the proposed code exemption. This proposed exemption is not uncommon. In fact, many governmental agencies are not subject to local land use laws, and many cities across the state as well as the nation have adopted this or a similar code exemption. However, I think it's important to mention that the proposed exemption is only for the El Cajon zoning regulations and processes. The exemption for city projects and uses from the development standards in the zoning code and its processes does not exempt projects from any applicable California building codes, fire codes, electrical codes, etc., nor does it exempt the city from the Americans with Disabilities Act, or known as ADA. And it does not exempt the city from other outside agency requirements. Think of Regional Water Control Board and the stormwater regulations that we adhere to, the city adheres to, nor does it exempt the city from CEQA. So, for example, what this might look like in terms of a use or a development, think of a park or a community center or even a public safety facility, which instead of meeting the zoning standards, development standards, the code and the processes, the city would not issue its permit like it would now under a conditional use permit requirement. It could exempt itself from that under this proposed exemption. And most recently, if we take the example of the animal shelter, that required a conditional use permit. It did go to the Planning Commission. That took about a 6-month time frame in the development process and cost the city $41,000 to process. So there's a little bit of savings with a municipal code exemption from the zoning development standards. It's also important to note that all city projects come before the City Council. The animal shelter, which we just talked about, was brought before the City Council for project approval and funding before we went forward with that. The exemption does not change the project decision process. As we just talked about, it does still include the council, which will still be a part of that process. Staff thinks there's some advantages to having such an exemption. It avoids unnecessary delays in case of an emergency or and enact and move forward. Also, unnecessary waste of municipal resources and unnecessary cost to taxpayers. So the staff is recommending that the council move to introduce an ordinance to approve the proposed amendment to the zoning code, and that it adds a new section exempting city projects from the zoning regulations and processes, including any applicable specific plans. And if you've taken an opportunity to take a look at what's in the code, the exemption is pretty simple. It just states that except as otherwise required by law, any activities or developments and or projects of or initiated by the city shall be exempt from the requirements of the zoning code and any applicable specific plan. However, the city will strive to meet the requirements to the maximum extent practical based on individual circumstances. We think this would be a benefit to the city if the city council believes it's the same, and staff is available to answer any questions.
Thanks, Tony. Council, any questions about this?
You mentioned all city projects. Is it really all city projects, or would there be some city projects that would not necessarily have to come before the council?
I think there are some cases that for contracts less than $50,000, the city manager can make that decision.
So maybe an example of that. I mean, most big projects would trigger some sort of city council involvement, whether it be a budget approval or a contract with a contractor. But maybe one example to share that could be under $50,000. I don't know how much fencing costs, but let's say there was some need for a new gate at the public works yard, and we felt that the best gate for the security of the public's equipment would be an 8-foot high gate. In our code, our zoning code says your gate can only be 6 feet. So under this scenario, under my discretion, we could install an 8-foot gate rather than a 6-foot gate, rather than going to the planning commission and getting an exception to the code.
So let's say that you wanted to put gas pumps on the waste management property, which it's our property, which waste management leases, and we wanted to put gas pumps on there for liquefied whatever. Would that have to come before the council, or?
So assuming, in that case, I think it would probably be triggering an amendment to our lease agreement. So in that case, it would trigger a city council consideration. And
I guess finally, another instance, let's say, two more. If the city wanted to build a 4-story building on a piece of property, that would probably trigger a city council review.
It depends. I mean, if it were in the downtown area, let's say we own some property in the downtown area and we were going to build a property 40 units to the acre, that wouldn't trigger anything right now, because we're required to, we can do that by right. Anybody can do that by right. But let's say we wanted to build 60 units to the acre, that would trigger a conditional use permit. Under this scenario, the council would not, and the planning commission would not review that component of it. But if the city were going to be doing any development of that size, you're going to be hiring an architect, so you're going to touch it then. You're going to be hiring a contractor, you're going to touch it then. You're going to be approving it as part of the budget because there's going to be some city monies into it, so you'll be touching it then. So there'll be opportunities for almost all projects for the city council to have some discretion over these types of projects. And Mr. Shute mentioned the animal shelter as an example. So had this policy been in effect prior to the approval of the animal shelter, the city council could have said, when it adopted the resolution approving the architect, you could have directed staff to take whatever architectural designs to the planning commission as part of the vetting process. So you still have the planning commission as a tool that you could use to ensure that there's greater vetting than would be otherwise.
Any other questions? Okay. The public hearing is now open. Angela, I assume we have some speaker cards about this?
We do. First speaker is Darren Ross.
Darren, how long have you served on the Planning Commission now?
About 10 years.
Thanks for your service.
You bet. So I come to you really as a resident today as well. One thing I love about El Cajon is that we're a very tight-knit community and we're really transparent. And when I looked at this, to me it really looked like a blank check for the city. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have responsible city government. I'm not saying we don't have responsible city council at this time, but I can't ensure that in the future. I can't ensure that the Planning Commission will be around in the future as well. As you know, they're starting to go to the wayside. So my concern really is that there is no absolute way for the public to be notified. During a CUP process, the public, if you're within a certain distance of the project, you get to weigh in at the very beginning. You're notified. This would do away with that, because the only chance that they would have is after all the dollars were spent and after everything was pretty much done and it finally possibly got to you guys, the public would have a chance to weigh in. So I don't see the public getting a chance to weigh in on that. Also, if you're going to exempt yourself, you're going to be playing by two sets of rules. The city's going to exempt itself from certain rules, but anybody that's private is going to have to come and get a permit, go through the same review process. Either it's going to be a decision by the planning staff or it's going to come to Planning Commission. Again, two sets of rules there. I think it'd be best, for transparency's sake, to continue with the same process and the city not being exempted. I'm not so much worried about the financial burden, because I think the cities, if there's something that needs to get done quickly, the city can find ways not to trip over their own bureaucracy and get it done. And so I really would strongly recommend, just like the Planning Commission did, on leaving it the way it is. I don't think it's that big of a deal at the end of the day. And I think if there is issues that make it tough, then those issues need to go away for the public as well. I mean, if you guys are saying, well, this is just a lot of work and we don't need to do all this work, then take it away for the public as well. Let's all be on the same field when it comes to how our projects run through the system, how they get approved, whether it's a staff type. I mean, we've streamlined a lot of things with the city over the last few years. And, maybe there's more streamlining that needs to happen. But to me, this is kind of a blank check where there's no oversight. And I'd like to see the way it is continue to stay that way.
Thanks, Darren.
Okay.
Questions? Thanks, Darren.
Okay, thank you.
Paul Circo.
Paul, also another long-term member of the Planning Commission.
Thank you. I am coming as a private resident who is a strong believer in small government that is run by the people and for the people, and looked at this particular exemption. And as Darren mentioned, it doesn't have any parameters. It erases the zoning ordinance. I understand the permitting and the processes that we go through in the city. When the city is signing their own homework, essentially, there isn't a point to having them go through all the steps of submitting this paperwork, checking that box. Okay, it's the city doing its own business. But when we're looking at setbacks, we're looking at height limitations, we're looking at lot coverage, we're looking at a lot of factors that play into what a private citizen can and cannot do, and what the government can and cannot do. I believe that it is not in our favor at all to remove our city government from that responsibility. I think that as we require our citizens to go through the process and have a project that fits the area, that fits the zoning, the government should also be looking at, hey, this is our property, it's in this zone. If we don't like the way that that zone is requiring a building to be built or a project to run, we have a process to change that. The Planning Commission is currently, I would say, very happy with the city. We have no problems with the people who are currently making decisions. But we, as citizens of El Cajon, do not know what will happen in 20 years. And if we change this law now, it will stay in effect for as long as it's on the books. So a decision to exempt the city of El Cajon from following the zoning ordinance now doesn't make sense to us. It doesn't make sense to me. If there was a specific project and we looked at the specific project and said, this one doesn't quite fit, I am 100% sure that the citizens of El Cajon and the Planning Commission would look at that project and say, well, let's change the law so that it does fit. But to take a section of law and go, yeah, we don't have to follow that one, just seems wrong to me.
Thank you, Paul. Let me see if there's any questions.
Good points.
Thanks. Good point, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you.
No more cards, sir.
All right. Make a motion then to close the public hearing.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by a unanimous vote of those present.
All right, discussion. Gary?
Question for the city manager. Now, essentially, this just leaves the planning commission out of this decision-making process, and everything is still vetted, in most cases, at a city council meeting with public input. Is that correct?
That's correct, unless the council wanted to push some things back down to the planning commission for review. But it would not automatically go to the planning commission under the scenario.
But the public would still. Would the people that live within 300 feet still get notified of the council action?
No, they would not be notified because it wouldn't trigger a conditional use permit, for example, and that's what triggers the public noticing.
Can we create something that does, if we were to vote in favor of this proposal, could we have something there that said everyone within 300 feet does get noticed when we have a special project like this?
So our community development director, Mr. Shute, says absolutely.
Okay, because it's important to me that people in the neighborhood know what's going on, that they're notified if something's going up, and they can be here at this meeting to express themselves. All right, thank you.
Anybody else?
That's a good point, Gary. I agree with you. And I think, I don't know if that would eliminate the objection to it, but it's probably a move in the right direction. So I have mixed feelings about the program to eliminate some of the things that the city has to do, but on others probably it's a good idea, like the animal shelter. But we have to follow the bureaucratic rules just like citizens do, so maybe that should stay that way. I don't know.
Steve?
To me, I always ask myself, what's good for the people of El Cajon? What is good? And we know transparency is good. And we know that the public doesn't like to be told they have to play by one set of rules, but the city gets to play by a different set of rules. That kind of doesn't sound real good to the public. Time is money when it comes to development. Anybody who's ever developed anything knows that the longer it takes, the more expensive it gets. And so the longer it takes to develop something, the more taxpayer dollars are used. But in the case of government, slower is good sometimes. In private industry, our company gets to move as fast as we want to because it's our money. We're taking the risk, so if we lose the money, it's on us. But when it comes to the public money, whoa, maybe we better slow down a little bit. It's the public's money. And for that reason, maybe we shouldn't move quite as fast as we do in the private sector. We have to be more thoughtful, careful, allow for more public input. On the other hand, the city is one of the fastest cities that I am aware of in terms of getting things through the pipeline. Builders love to come to El Cajon because I think we have the second lowest permit fees among the 18 cities in San Diego County, and we have a very fast, comparatively, process. So it comes down to me a couple of things. Our council versus, as what I think Paul said, a future council. We don't know 20 years from now what their positions might be, and this is kind of set in stone unless somebody reverses it. Is there an urgency for us to do this, to set it in stone for the next 10, 20 years? I'm falling back to what is good for the public. transparency. They want to see by the play by the same set of rules. So I'm not really liking this because I don't see an urgency. I still would like us to be transparent. I would like to see us play by the same rules. I think that's what the public wants.
You make good points, Steve. I don't think I can really argue with that.
I can't argue with it.
Somebody like to make a motion?
I'd move that we deny to introduce the ordinance and not allow it.
Angela, can you reset my voting button, please? Thank you.
So the motion has it. Would anybody second? Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
Thank you, gentlemen, from the Planning Commission. Item 11 is the fiscal year 2018 through 19 mid-year report and 5-year business plan update. Staff, would you tell us about this,
Mayor,
please?
before you go to 11, you have item 10 to address.
I just skip right over something? Oh, I'm sorry. Continue with the public hearing. Item 10 is amendment of specific plan 1A2. And staff, would you tell us about this, please?
Mayor and Council, thank you. The proposal before you today is a request or a proposal to amend the downtown master plan in terms of its sign regulations. Downtown sign provisions are primarily designed to allow for the identification of businesses and services at the pedestrian level. However, there are in some cases there are properties in the downtown that aren't designed to attract pedestrians. In fact, there are 4 properties that are 7 acres or more that don't fit that goal of the downtown master plan, and those include the Civic Center, here where we have Police, City Hall, and ACPAC, the courts just to the east of us, the 24-Hour Fitness and Ross Shopping Center, as well as the Magnolia Shopping Center to the north where Motor World is, and Rubio's, etc. All those properties are 7 acres or more and not quite designed at the pedestrian scale. So we think these larger sites would benefit from more flexibility in what the sign allowances are in the downtown master plan. So what's being proposed is that to allow us higher sign up to 20 feet high, only on properties that are at least 7 acres or more. The sign could be no more than 5 feet wide or 100 square feet. So in exchange of being having a monument sign, which is currently allowed, a monument sign can be 8 feet high and 120 square feet. What's being proposed is 20 feet high, 5 feet wide, 100 square feet, which would result in a more narrow blade-like appearance, must be integrated as a whole architectural feature. So the expectation would be along the lines of a blade sign. So these are the best examples that we could come up with to show the City Council what a blade sign might look like. So in exchange for a greater height, so you can capture drivers that are heading down Magnolia or Main Street, a higher sign would achieve that. But at the same time, its narrowness would be less bulky and be more in line with an urban blade sign, something that we think would still fit within the goals of the downtown master plan. The Planning Commission at its March 19th meeting recommended approval to the City Council of this proposed amendment, and the staff as well, and staff is available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tony. Questions? Okay, great. All right, the public hearing is now open. Angela, do we have any speaker cards?
We have no cards, sir.
Then I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Move in second, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
All right, it's up to the council. Seems like common sense, good idea. Yes, Gary?
Well, there have been many times when I've been driving in other cities where I was unfamiliar with the businesses, and I was looking for a particular business, and I'm trying to look, in the parking lot area at each sign and trying not to run into somebody. And I think these types of signs would be much more helpful because I could just scan one sign near the road without having to look away from where I'm going. So I think this makes a lot of sense, and in a safety, sense.
Any thoughts?
Oh, good.
Were there any discussions about lighting at night?
From the Planning Commission?
Or staff?
No, there were no issues regarding light. The monument signs can have a light from internally or projected from the ground level. We have not experienced any issues with the existing monument signs in terms of light in the downtown.
Does the city have any say on design standards?
It does in the downtown master plan, so there are some design standards to ensure that signs meet the expectations.
Yeah, good. All right, well, it seems like a straightforward kind of thing to me. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present. And with your permission, Mayor, I will read the title.
Please.
An ordinance amending Title 17 of the El Cajon Municipal Code and adding a new section 17.35.070 to Chapter 17.35 to, I apologize, I'm reading the wrong title. I apologize. An ordinance amending specific plan number 182 to allow for freestanding signs up to 20 feet high on qualifying development sites.
All right, thank you very much. All right, item 11 is the fiscal year 2018-19 mid-year report and 5-year business plan update. Staff, would you tell us about this, please?
Mr. Council, as Clay Shane, our finance director, makes his way to the podium, I just wanted to point out that in the past we included this report as typically a consent item. This is really more of a forecast of where we think we're going to give the council an idea. But we feel that this is one of the most important things the city council does, and so we've pulled this off consent and put it onto the open meeting. With that, Mr. Shane.
All right, Clay, thanks for coming.
You're welcome. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, distinguished members of the City Council, members of the public, and city staff. My name is Clay Shane. I'm the Director of Finance for the City of El Cajon, and our item today consists of 3 parts. We'll check in on the current year, see how we're doing year to date with highlights from our mid-year report. Then we'll look a little bit further ahead with our 5-year business plan, and then do a little bit of housekeeping with 3 budget amendments to the FY19 budget. For the current year, fiscal year 19, we're projecting total general fund revenues of approximately $75.3 million. This is just under $500,000 over our FY19 budget. It's important to point out here that the 2 primary revenue sources in the general fund, sales tax and property taxes, are coming in slightly under budget. The softening is something we'll touch on here in just a few slides. Other revenue categories, however, are coming in just a little bit over budget. On the expenditure side, expenditures are projected to total $78.1 million. This is approximately $2 million under the $80.1 million budget. As you can see by category, salaries and benefits are just a little bit over budget, while other categories are below, with most of the savings coming from materials, supplies, and services. This activity taken together represents a reduction of fund balance of approximately $2.8 million as expenditures exceed revenues. However, while that sounds like bad news, the plan at adoption of the 19 budget anticipated a reduction of fund balance of approximately $5.3 million as we shifted funding from the general fund to the CIP fund for the Performing Arts Center. So this is actually $2.5 million better than we planned, so I will categorize that as good news. Moving to the 5-year business plan and the economic outlook specifically, this is a very interesting time in terms of the economy, and there's a variety of news sources out there. We have some economic pundits that are already calling that we are on the beginning of a recession, while others are merely saying that we're growing at a slower rate, but it's still positive. Regardless of what the conclusion drawn by these pundits, It's worth noticing that most are speaking and recognizing of a change in the economy, and we're seeing that locally here, specifically in the softening of our major revenue sources. CalPERS is the other major component or influence on the 5-year projections that we'll look at here in a minute. Included in that is our normal discussion about rates, the component of payroll that represents CalPERS contributions. Next fiscal year, the miscellaneous plan has anticipated rates of approximately 53%. That plan's contributions over the next 5 years will grow to 61.6%, whereas the safety plan is anticipated to be approximately 67.7% next year, and that will grow to 80.7%. So that means, in this case, that for every dollar we pay one of our employees, if it's a miscellaneous plan member, we have to pay an additional 62 cents to CalPERS and approximately 81 cents to the safety plan. Altogether, in total dollars, next year we're anticipating contributions to total $19 million. That's approximately $2.4 million more than this fiscal year. But those contributions are expected to grow to just shy of $25 million over the next 5 years. And this is a message I deliver fairly regularly to this body and, frankly, anyone that will listen to me. Last year we talked about how within 5 years, 1 out of every $4 the general fund spends will be to CalPERS. And for fear of sounding redundant, I wanted to try to think about a new way of expressing that and wanted to try to express that in a different way. We recently purchased a new fire engine, and we labored over this decision. It was approximately $800,000. Next fiscal year, the amount of money above and beyond what we're paying CalPERS for this year is equivalent to buying 3 fire engines next year. Then after that, 5 fire engines. The year after, 7 more, then 9, and then 10. So at the end of the next 5 years, we would have paid CalPERS above and beyond what we paid this fiscal year, the equivalent of 34 fire engines. So the meat and potatoes of the 5-year business plan are the projections. Projections, and the purpose of the projections is to identify problems we have in our long-term planning. Basically, we take the model that we've set in place this fiscal year, and without anticipating any changes, we run that out for the next 5 years. Now, keep in mind, this is with no mitigation, this is no management decisions being made, and it's not anticipating any surprises. Like I said, it's a tool used to identify systemic problems. Projections are limited by our ability to look into the future for the unforeseens and, more importantly, for the decisions we have not made. Also, it rests on the strength of our assumptions. We assume a number of growth rates, and frankly, there are guesses. There are best guesses. There are informed guesses, but we don't always get them right. But we're pretty good. So looking at the projections, and this is a very common pattern that we've seen over the last few years. We are projecting fairly significant deficits over the next 5 years. We see the deficits grow from our projected 19 results of 2.8 million, as we've already discussed, growing up to 6.4. This isn't something to be alarmed about. Like I said, we haven't taken any action to mitigate this yet, and we will with each year's budget and as we progress. This is a sign that as an agency we need to think about this, be aware of this condition, and persistently be on the search for new revenue sources as well as efficiencies and ways to save money. Finally, this action today includes 3 budget amendments, all 3 of which are in our internal service funds. The first of which is an IT service fund amendment, and this action does not represent any new money being spent. What it is a realignment of when we pay a bill versus when we receive the benefit. Many years ago, that arrangement on this subject has become decoupled, and this action is trying to get those in alignment again, so that it does not represent new money. The second one, the Vehicle Maintenance Fund, through operations, Truck 6 received damage to its basket. It's the ladder truck stationed in 6. and that requires specialty repair that was not anticipated at the time the budget was amended. We're looking for an additional appropriation of $130,000 for that repair. And then the third is in the Vehicle Equipment and Replacement Fund. We had authorized as part of previous year's budget the purchase of a sign truck. That purchase comes in two pieces, the truck and the signage equipment. The truck purchase happened as planned. There were delays in purchasing the sign equipment. This action is just reappropriating the money in order to complete that purchase. All three of which proposed amendments are funded through these funds' prior year revenues that are in their fund balances and do not require any additional funding. That concludes our presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Clay. Good report. Anybody have any questions of Clay? Jerry?
Clay, just to put things into perspective, most cities are recommended to have a 20% of their total budget in reserves. And what do we have in reserves, and what would that 20% recommended value be?
We're projecting at the end of fiscal year 19, our current fiscal year, that we will maintain our 20% operating reserve of approximately $15.7 million. Additionally, we have established two reserve buckets, one to help mitigate the impacts of economic uncertainty, the next recession of approximately $6.5 million, as well as setting aside some money to mitigate some of the growth in CalPERS contributions of $8 million. That leaves approximately $15.3 million unassigned for any of those purposes, with total reserves in the general fund of approximately $45.5 million.
So they're about 3 times the recommended value, so we're being very prudent here.
Thereabouts, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Clay, do you see the PERS obligation cresting and then declining at some point?
Yes, I believe the projections plateau right at the end of our projections, right at the 5-year spot, and maintain at that level for the next 5 years, 10 years.
So when we get up to that level, it plateaus at that level it doesn't come back down
with the information we're being provided now. That's correct. Assuming no further action by the CalPERS board.
Bob.
So with the projected deficits, will we have to have more reserves than what we have now in order to get through that period? Possibly.
I would like to think we'd be able to find some operational solutions before we emptied the piggy bank, so to speak. I think there's a very good chance that at some point in the next 5 years we'll have to leverage our reserve accounts, particularly the economic uncertainty and the unfunded retirement obligation. But I would like to try to find new revenue sources and efficiencies in operations first.
Exactly.
Mr. McClellan, this is something Mr. Shane and I talk about frequently. These projections that you see right now make an assumption that there's kind of a status quo to revenue, status quo to spending trends. This helps us know that over the next 5 years as staff, we're going to be looking at sharpening the pencil. We're going to be looking at how to deliver similar services with a different model, i.e. contracting out certain things if there's a savings there, looking at ways to monetize some assets that we've never monetized in the past. And so these are things that will be thrown into the basket to help lower that deficit that you see before you today.
Well, not only that about every 10 years, which it's been over 10 years now, you have a recession. And that dramatically affects our economy, and especially those in the city, because we're so reliant on sales tax revenue. So we could have a real problem in the next 2 or 3 years that this doesn't project, because it's kind of a leveling on this, but it could be a lot worse than what you suggested. Is that true?
Yes, I do not forecast any unforeseen events. Like I said, we're projecting our current year activity, moving forward status quo.
Right. But there could be a recession, and that could be a damaging thing to what our projections are.
That is correct.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Clay. Angela, do you have any speaker cards for this?
We have one speaker, Stephanie Harper.
How did I know that?
Stephanie.
Wow. Okay. Basically, I wanted to address the outrageous request for that $180,000 for a repair on a car. We could buy like 4 or 5 different cars or 4 or 5 different trucks or whatever the case may be. That's way outrageous. And that may be the reason why we're in kind of a financial bind. We need to decide what's important and what's not important. And since we do spend approximately the past 4 or 5 years, we've spent approximately $7 million on cars. Maybe some of the revenue that we're getting from the cars that we've put off, we can put that into our thing. Maybe the tow fees, that when anybody in El Cajon gets towed, $40 of that goes to the El Cajons here in our city. Maybe that could be helping. I definitely think that when it comes up on agenda, because it comes about every June, that our executives get raises, I think we should skip that. I think that they've been getting raises every single year since we became a charter city, which was told to us as the citizens that it was going to keep us from having to give raises. It was going to keep our, help, with the economy and keep money off of us, and it was going to be better for us. We became a charter city, and every single year since we became a charter city, we give those executives raises. I think that would be a really good way to keep our budget down, since it sounds like it seems like we're heading for some financial trouble if we don't find ways to cut our budget. Since we still are the poorest city in San Diego County, we should be really rethinking those kind of things. Also, okay, that was it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, if I could comment on the vehicle repair. That's actually to our ladder fire engine, our ladder truck for the fire department. That's a $1.3 to $1.5 million truck. So there's some prudence in getting that repaired, the bucket repaired. We're currently without that truck. We're having to borrow other vehicles from other jurisdictions. So we're working on getting that repaired as fast as we can.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the clarification.
No more cards, sir.
All right. Make a motion then to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moving to second, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
All right, council. It's
It's
lots to
an
digest in that.
Administrative report. I don't know that we need to vote on it, do we?
I think we do. We have to vote to accept it, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we accept the report.
Okay.
Move to second, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
Mayor, just for clarification, you're approving all the action items that were described in the agenda report, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, item 12 is my activity report as reported. Item 13 is a legislative report. I have a couple legislative updates to share with you today. AB 377 from Garcia authorizes the city, county, or both to permit microenterprise home kitchen operations. AB 377 will require new permits, inspections, and reporting requirements for the enforcement agency and imposes a new unfunded state mandate local program. AB 377 would allow the operation of micro-enterprise kitchens in residential neighborhoods and may raise concerns relative to the trash, parking, noise, wastewater disposal of fats, oils, and grease, water sources, fire hazards, among other things. The bill has been amended once and is currently with the Assembly Committee on Health. The League of California Cities has a watch advisory on this bill. Some cities have begun sending letters of opposition, and we'll just watch this and see how it goes. I'll report back to you. We could, if you would like to send a letter of opposition at this point, we could talk about that. I think we will eventually be doing that. But
Well, let's see how many more amendments they make to it.
Okay, fair enough.
They could change it and change it and change it.
We will bring it back if it.
Keep an eye on it.
Well, it's up to the others. Does everybody feel that way? Wait. Okay, then I'll leave that off the table. All right, the second update. SB 5, Affordable Housing and Community Development Investment Program. Existing law requires an annual allocation of property tax revenue from local agencies in each county to the Educational Revenue Amendment Fund, that's ERAF, in that county for allocation to specified educational entities. This bill would establish in state government the Affordable Housing and Community Development Investment Program, which would be administered by the Affordable Housing and Community Development Investment Committee. The bill would authorize the city and county joint powers agencies, enhanced infrastructure financing district, Affordable Housing Authority, Community Revitalization and Investment Authority, Transit Village Development District, or a combination of those entities to apply to the Affordable Housing and Community Development Investment Committee to participate in the program, and would authorize the committee to approve or deny plans for projects meeting specific criteria. This bill contains other related provisions and other existing laws. The League of California Cities has a support letter position on this bill. We will continue to monitor and bring you more updates as this moves its way through the process.
Thank you.
That brings us to activities of council members. Councilmember Gary Kendrick.
As reported.
Councilmember McClellan.
As reported.
Deputy Mayor Steve Goebel.
As reported.
Item 18 is a joint council member report. Mr. Goebel, will you please share with us regarding the proposal for rotational night shelters?
Yes, I think one thing out of the town hall meeting in January was the people of El Cajon saying, keep trying. It's still an issue that affects residents and businesses in the city of El Cajon. So this is a topic which I think has some potential. And what I'm asking the council to do is to recommend staff gather the stakeholders and have a discussion on this. A proposal for rotational night shelters, what does that mean? Well, rotational means for a temporary time period before it moves to the next location, so they're not permanent. Why rotational? From our history, we remember semi-permanent shelters resulted in more significant problems. The St. Albans property, the tent that used to be, I think, where the animal shelter is now. And fairness, different locales in the city share in the solution for a short period of time before it rotates to the next place. Night, meaning it opens in the evening at some point to be determined and closes in the morning at some point to be determined. Why night? So because if it is at a facility that has day use, for instance, a preschool or a recreation or daycare, adult daycare, some public use, commerce, this does allow that property to use that during its daytime. And shelter would be better conditions than what are currently experienced on the street. So that's rotational night shelters. But why? Well, this could be a potential solution for those currently creating encampments on the streets. It could be a potential solution to avoid a public health crisis. We know the amount of trash that has been gathered off of the streets, including needles and other things that could be a public health crisis. This could be a potential solution which might be supported by neighborhoods and businesses. It could be a potential solution which partners service providers with resources that the city doesn't have. And it is a solution that could be liked by the courts. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has already weighed in on this in the city of Boise, and they had some strong words for the city of Boise. If you don't offer somebody an option, then you have limited rights. But if you offer them an option and they say no, well, there's some accountability to that. So this is court tested. How long? I'm saying a test of no less than 30 days and no more than 90 days. I'm not saying a permanent program. I'm saying let's try something. Then let's stop. Let's freeze. Let's evaluate. Let's hear from everybody. What worked? What didn't work? Should we just stop this completely, or should we modify it and go on? It could be extended beyond 90 days if everybody says, yeah, I think we have something here. Let's keep going. What are some issues that need to be resolved? Lots of questions that stakeholders need to weigh in on. Operational, what's the criteria and approval process for hosting one? Where will they be in the city? Will they be indoors, outdoors, or both? We've heard about bed bugs and things that are brought that might be a reason why some place might be outdoors. I don't know, other situations might be indoors. How many spaces would be available at one of these shelters? How would people get there? What happens if the shelter fills up? What are the procedures for intake and exit? A lot of questions to be asked and answered on this. What and how many possessions will be allowed at the shelter? What kind of resources will be on site? Will they have bedding, hygiene, program services, food? Will there be rules? Would security be required? Would there be restrictions outside of operating hours, such as you have to stay away at least 500 feet from the site to allow that site to be used for whatever its day use is? There are financial considerations. How much would this cost? Who will pay for what? Are there any liabilities which exist? Are there any contracts required? Any permits required? How would availability be communicated and offered to somebody? What if somebody says, no, I don't want to go? Would this become a magnet for people outside of El Cajon to come into El Cajon? What are expectations? How many people currently living on the streets will say yes? We know today people are living on the streets and turning down our housing navigator, turning down the services at ECTLC or some, for whatever reason they choose. But there are people turning down. How many of these people, if they're offered night shelter, would also say, no, I don't want to go. I just want to stay on the streets. And what is the accountability for that decision? So how many people will we expect living on the streets to say, yes, I'll go? So this is really a collaboration. The collaboration is active working together again and again. You know, in our society, we read in the papers about national and state legislatures just having extreme rhetoric that really doesn't seem to want to get people to the table to discuss issues and make compromises and decide if something's worth it. This is one of those opportunities for the community to get together and have those kind of discussions for solutions. So the city administration is a stakeholder. The public safety department is a stakeholder. Private and social service agencies, county social service agencies, they have money and programs that the city doesn't have. Potential site providers might want to know or have a say what's going on. Certainly the residents and businesses. I'll probably have a town hall and invite the residents and businesses to come give their point of view on this thing. And I think finally I have the East County Homeless Task Force, certainly a body of expertise, including those who are homeless. These are all people who have a voice that I think could come up with a solution. And so the goal is a recommendation for a go, no-go decision to test this by July 9th. And that is about 90 days away. And that's a go, no-go whether we should do a 30 to 90-day test. So really what I'm asking for is the council to direct staff to coordinate these discussions between all these stakeholders and come back in 90 days and say, here's what we think. Should we go? Should we not go?
Thank you, Steve. Please see if there's any agenda speaker cards on this item.
We have two speakers. The first one is Anna Marie Piconing Snyder.
Hi.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Again.
Welcome.
Hi, City Councilman, staff, and the public. I am the project director for the East County Homeless Task Force, and I'm here with representatives from the task force, from the Outreach Solution Group, and for the Shelter and Housing Solution Group. And if you would give me permission, I would like to introduce them and ask them to stand.
Yeah, please.
So we have a representative from the Regional Task Force on Homelessness. We have a representative from County Mental Health Services and HHSA. We have members from the Homeless Outreach Committee. We have providers like Eastern Lights. They are a project of Urban Street Angels who work with transitional aged youth, short-term and bridge housing programs, and overnight shelter programs. Crisis House is here, who's part of the committee. East County Transitional Living Center. There's residents of Lakeside here. Faith communities like The Rock and Welcome Church. Did I forget anybody?
No. Well done.
So we have been working, as you know, for a couple of years on shelter and housing opportunities and ideas, and forthcoming will be a report of ideas, innovative ideas for cities and the region to consider. In the meantime, we're here as stakeholders, potential partners, and collaborators in support of dialogue and exploration of increasing low-barrier shelter beds in the East Region and El Cajon. I came to this meeting from a meeting with Sharp Healthcare System and Grossmont Hospital. They are also in very much need of shelter beds here in the East Region for those people that they need to discharge and are not yet ready to go to the next level of housing or shelter. So we would like to partner with the city and the council members to talk about solutions for sheltering in the East Region.
Let's see if there's some questions. I have a couple questions, but anybody? So my concern about this, these things sound great when you're talking about them, and then you start getting the nitty-gritty. I've spent the last 30 years of my life working in mental health and in hospitals. So, you know, when we discharge somebody from a hospital, they may be psychotic. They may have open sores. They may have complicated medical problems or medical problems that don't seem particularly complicated but then become extremely complicated. They need medication. They need to have those, that medication coordinated with a pharmacy, and they oftentimes show up without their meds, and they have addiction issues, and that's complicated. And I understand that that's not too complicated for an existing shelter that does this all the time. But in a rotational basis, I'm a little worried that somebody who gets involved in this may get overwhelmed by the kind of people that show up and the problems that these folks have. What do you think about that?
I think it's a huge consideration. I think it's brought up a lot, the sometimes co-occurring conditions with homelessness. I think that Mr. Goebel's presentation addresses those questions adequately, at least that they can be addressed in creating some type of a program. I also have experienced in working with the East County Homeless Task Force collaborators over the last 2 years. We have a lot of professionals at our beck and call, if you will, to assist us with creating programs that can be successful. So while I believe it's a large concern, the safety of everybody, including the homeless residents and any shelter volunteers, I do believe that we have enough professionals in and around us to support any program that we would put together.
So I'm foreseeing a rotational program that has a pretty extensive intake process that asks a lot of questions. It has a lot of, I'm sorry, we're going to have to say, I'm sorry you don't qualify for this program because of your wheelchair or because of your edema or your because of your scabies, because of all these things I would think would disqualify for them. Do you see that as the way that this would work, or do you see that as we bring everybody in and then we address their problems by bringing in professionals to deal with that?
I think, Mr. Mayor, what I've learned also in working with the task force is that each case needs to be identified as an individual, as a person. So when those people are met and as potentials for this program, I think all of those scenarios need to be addressed individually. But I think in advance of that, again, the professionals that have been doing this for a long time know that those situations will be coming up and can build that into the program design.
So I think what you're saying is that you'd be comfortable with having a program design that would exclude people that wouldn't be appropriate for a transitional and rotational shelter.
Absolutely. I think a rotational night shelter has a very it could cater to a very specific population of persons experiencing homelessness.
So who would write that protocol?
I would say it would be in combining with the city staff who's exploring it. I would say we would tap into the professionals that do this all the time. I mean, there are people available to us that do this all the time.
Yeah, good. Steve, is that kind of how you see it too? A protocol that would be written?
the whole point is let's start talking about it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to be solved today, but I think the public is expecting us to have more conversations to lead towards a solution.
Sorry to grill you.
It's okay.
But those are just. I worry that sometimes people in their good-heartedness sometimes ignore some problems that most people don't even know exist.
Mr. Mayor, I've been called a do-gooder before, and I assure you, while I do want to do good, I am very interested in depending on the professionals who do this all of the time to assist in any project that considers giving housing to people.
I think you should be happy to be called a do-gooder. I think that's a good phrase. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Let me see if there's any more questions. More questions? All right, we keep trying. All right, thanks. All right.
Our last speaker is Lindsay Dominguez.
Mr. Dominguez, welcome.
Thanks. That's my first time here, so hi, everybody. I'm not sure what the official salutations are. I come in support of Anna Marie, but also as a standalone. We're the El Cajon project of Urban Street Angels. We've been in this community for a year and a half now. We came in a year and a half into the existence of Urban Street Angels, which is a program that exists now downtown, started in North Park, but they house transitional age youth who are homeless. They have 25 to 35 beds. In North Park, they also have a permanent facility sharing Father Joe's Village building downtown, where they take in youth from 18 to 25 years old. So we started with them a year and a half ago. We've been here now for a little over a year, and we operate just in a local church down the street on Washington and Hamishaw. Currently, last week, we've been operating one night a week, so we're not on this 30 to 90-day test that's being proposed, but we can speak from a year's worth of experience of taking in transitional age homeless youth and some of the challenges and budgetary things that come with it. We do have a van that we are able to transport. Last week, we transported 5 young men from downtown here to El Cajon that also attend the Tuesday night shelter that Urban Street Angels puts on in North Park. We provide 25 cots, blankets, pillows, the word is escaping me, toothbrush, toothpaste, those kind of things. Toiletries, yes, thank you. We also provide food, and most of it has been paid for by donations and fundraisers. And then, of course, speaking to community stakeholders or other partnerships like Think Dignity, who provides showers, they've also come to our facility to help provide showers as well. And a lot of that has been done from a group of 15 to 20 young professionals that live here in El Cajon and the surrounding East County community for the past year. We have socks that we hand out twice a week and just invite those that are younger to the shelter. So anyway, we're total support of the exploration and discussion of solutions like this, and we just wanted to be here.
Thanks. Let me see if there's any questions. Questions? Bob?
You just work with young people?
Yes.
How about the old people?
So we're focused. So in kind of a comment to, or in response to a comment made earlier about preventing homelessness, in speaking to a professional at HomeStart, they said the only indicator from all their data collected of predicting homelessness is whether or not they've been homeless before. And so our hope is to meet the need before they get into a position of homelessness. And we're thinking that getting them at a younger age would be able to provide that.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So I have a question.
Yes.
You mentioned picking up people in downtown San Diego and bringing them to El Cajon.
So
can you imagine why that might be not exciting to me?
So Transitional Age Youth San Diego, the service downtown, they called us last week and said, hey, we have 5 that currently attend the North Park shelter. Could they attend yours as well? What we have found is that there are actually a lot of our El Cajon young people that do go downtown because they feel like there are more services or stuff down there for them to do. So our hope is to draw some of them back as the El Cajon community becomes just more available to that population. But we do transport them back in the morning. So they sleep there. They only come for a night. We feed them dinner, safe place to sleep, and breakfast, and then we transport them back to their original location.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you for coming, and thanks for all the good work you're doing.
Thanks.
No more speakers, sir.
All right. And we don't have to close the public hearing on this one. So, Steve, what is the ask?
The ask is to have city staff coordinate discussions between the stakeholders listed. Let's see if I can go back to that one. Coordinate the discussions as they see fit. They could be involved in the discussion. They could just ensure that this discussion happens and then report back to the city staff. That's the ask.
At what point will we be deciding to authorize this?
So on July 9th, we'd hear back, hopefully, from all these stakeholders. And frankly, it doesn't necessarily have to be in cement or rotational night shelter. What if this group comes up with a solution that is an offshoot of that? But because we had the discussion, we came to a solution.
Well, excellent. I can't see why we'd ever be opposed to exploring new opportunities.
I think there are a lot of experts in this field. There's a lot of experts in this room. Why not gather them and take advantage of what they know? We can't do it all ourselves. I think the public is asking us, gather everybody and extract the knowledge from all these people who are really knowledgeable.
All right. Before Steve makes a motion, does anybody have any other comments or questions? Then I'll leave it to you, Steve.
Well, I will make a motion that the council direct city staff to coordinate these meetings with the various stakeholders and return a recommendation by July 9th.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Move the second, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
And to all you involved, thank you for coming, and thank you for the good work you're doing out there. We really appreciate your dedication. And as a reward, you don't have to stay for the rest of it. You can get up and go. But it's all right. Item 19 is for informational purposes only, and no action is needed. There are no first readings of ordinances on today's agenda. We have no second readings of ordinances today, and that brings us to closed session. Our city attorney, would you please recite the title and lead us into the closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council will be meeting in closed session on 2 items of existing litigation to confer with its legal counsel. These are closed sessions pursuant to paragraph 1 of subdivision D of Government Code section 54956.9. The names of the 2 cases are the first, El Cajon Police Officers Association versus City of El Cajon. And the second one is Mike Murphy and Joshua Pitsley et al. Versus City of El Cajon.
I'd like to make a motion then to adjourn the closed session.
Second.
Move and second, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be in closed session for a short period, and then we'll be back to finish the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council met in closed session on 2 items as described prior to going to closed session. On the first item, item number 20, the City Council gave direction to its legal counsel, and in item number 21, the City Council gave direction to its legal counsel.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. All right, this brings us to adjournment. The adjourned regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency, held this 26th day of March 2019, is adjourned until Tuesday, April 9th, 2019 at 3 o'clock p.m. Thank you.